Welcome to Perspectives in Mobile, the news podcast from the Mobile Ecosystem Forum. Join us discussing the world of telecommunications, technology, and mobile innovations. From Florence, Riccardo Amati.
RCS is stepping into its next phase of real world adoption. AI is redefining how brands scale personalization without losing their voice, and messaging channels from SMS to WhatsApp are rapidly evolving from utility tools into full fledged brand experience. In this episode, we also explore a key tension shaping the industry right now: how to balance automation with authenticity, performance with long term brand equity. Welcome to MEF Perspectives, the podcast where we explore the ideas, innovations, and people shaping the future of mobile. Today's guest is Shaziya Khan, brand communication strategy specialist whose work spans from luxury to well-being brands, including the Bears, Unilever, Johnson& Johnson, and many others. She's also the author of Have Biscuit, an ode to sweet everyday moments, a thoughtful take on connection culture and the power of small, meaningful interaction. Thank you for joining, Shazia.
Thank you, Ricardo. It's great to be here.
In this conversation, mobile industry entrepreneurs will learn how to transform messaging channels into true brand building platforms and how to design communications that feels personal, that feel personal, not programmed. We also unpack how to balance data automation and creativity. So let's go to the first question. She's first thing first. You have worked across categories from luxury to very different things. How has the core of brand communication strategy evolved in a mobile first world?
Um, I think the core it has become even more important, which is being connected. Evoking a "you get me" feeling. From a consumer, you're a brand that gets it, and you're a brand that gets me, and that aligns to the brand of the consumer. The most important brand is actually the consumer's own brand. Their values, their tastes, and when they feel that the brand communication strategy of another brand aligns, that's the magic.
And today, brands they interact. What mindset shift is required for strategies design for conversational channel? Conversation is the magic word in the late months.
Uh, to really have that sense of connection and aligned with the most important brand, which is the consumer's brand, and that means just coming across as very inviting, that you want to actually be you know associated with this brand, and that's when the interaction emerges naturally.
Of course, what is more interesting for mobile ecosystem entrepreneurs and MEF members is how messaging platform SMS, WhatsApp, RCS um, can be elevated into brand building channels, not just performance tools, but something that could build a brand.
I think the first is to not be intrusive, to be timely. As technology, one can have the power to be there all the time. But the human being at the other end wants that aptness. So I think not being intrusive and not sell all the time. Take the opportunity to build that connection,
Mm.
and the commerce will follow.
Don't be too intrusive. This is a big lesson because many times you
Yes,
have just too many messages and you
too
don't
much.
want to go through them.
Yes.
And what makes the difference? What distinguishes a memorable brand voice from something generic?
Um, Well, the data says, it's humor and humanity. And There's a lot of data on that. There have been studies of uh, the best work at Cannes and many other databases that are pulled out on work and many platforms. And it's that sense of humanity, that emotional intensity, which you really feel a sense of connection to, or it's really engaging, really funny. It's something that uh, connects in either of those two ways.
And that brings us to a trade off, frequency versus intimacy in messaging. Because, the device you use for messaging is very personal. Your life is now, and nowadays is a smartphone, really. So, how should brands think about this trade off, frequency against intimacy?
I think put the personal filter on. Like you said, it's a very personal channel. And that appropriateness of the personal filter is the key. One cannot just have the commercial filter on or the media filter on. It's that personal filter. Is it appropriate?
Hmm.
I remember some years ago, insurance companies were messaging people on their birthdays. Like the first message you got on your mobile was from your insurance company. I remember thinking, I'm not sure how apt that is, because insurance makes you think of, especially life insurance, of passing away. And that's not what you want to know as the first thing on your birthday. So
Absolutely.
it's a totally different filter to put on, that personal and that humane filter, because it
So,
is a personal channel.
yeah, and apart this is an insurance company, what, what are the biggest mistakes brands make when they enter conversational ecosystems? Do you have other examples?
I mean, there are so many examples. There's the kind of almost a bombarding that happens, and the restraint is what pleases you, the aptness. So we know when the holiday season is coming, the same messages bombard you. I gave you the insurance example. I think timing. I remember there was a hair service for all kinds of things that you can do with your hair, and the messages would reach in the middle of a working day, and you don't even have the bandwidth to respond to something like that. So I think just keeping appropriateness in mind is so important.
Um, RCS. It promises richer app-like experiences within messaging. I mean, for a marketer, that's perfect. From a strategist lens, anyway, where does it truly add value versus just adding, something trivial like bells and whistles?
So the data is showing that when there's any friction or it's difficult to download something or access something, the consumers just drop off. I've seen that on so many reports. So I think balancing the bells and whistles with the simplicity and the friction free access is so important. And there's a variety of connectivity that people experience. Sometimes on the road, the call is dropping, or you're in a conference room and you can't connect. People have different kinds of phones and capabilities. So having that sense of a friction free experience for a bulk of people, to me, is really important. I mean, today people have that entitlement. They want it absolutely smooth and easily accessible. Anything else, they just drop off.
What would you advise to focus on more? Storytelling, interactivity, utility?
I feel that today people want to get to it. So, I mean, I'm in the business of storytelling, so it is always about storytelling. But one aspect that technology enables is a much better look and see of the product or the service. So if you can deliver that, that you can really see what you're considering purchasing, or you can get a good glimpse at it, even though you're far away. Uh, Consumers that live in faraway towns really rely on their mobile phone. That's their window into the wider world, and be that window. Give them that look and feel and experience that is so close to what it can be, entirely enabled by technology, and that will delight. So I feel that focusing on the offer, on the product like never before, in delightful ways, that's what people want.
Right. Do you see RCS evolving more as a commerce channel, a
Yes,
service channel, or
yes.
like a brand storytelling channel?
I would say that uh, the commerce channel, where you can really examine the details, examine the features, see for yourself, get the input that you want. Um, there was data that shows that women, for example, look at 5 to 7 sources of research before deciding on something. So there's a consumer out there who's really researching. Um, Consumers are even using a combination of Google as well as AI to help them narrow down their choices. So the more technology can feed their hunger for quality information, it can play a really useful role. I think being useful is powerful.
What kind of brands do you see as best positioned to win in rich messaging, RCS?
I think slightly high involvement categories where people don't know much, or it's new for their generation, they don't have a reference point. And if technology can be their ally and handhold them, and it can be a spectrum of products and services, but something high involvement uh, would be great for consumers.
Hmm. We were talking before about intrusion versus relevance. CPaaS enables highly personalized automated communication at scale. What's the limit they should have in doing this? What's what where is the red line, on your opinion?
Tone of voice. I have anecdotal evidence. For example, for an elite function, uh, people being invited, and the language is completely off. Be here at this time for this transport to take you to this castle, and it doesn't feel that the tone of voice is completely off. And in fact, guests are it's evoking a lot of laughter and humor, and actually they're saying the host is not playing a role in it at all. The human touch is missing, the graciousness is not there. It just is so obvious that it's not only been outsourced, but nobody's even looking at it. And all these reminders are coming on to show up at these grand venues for these grand events, and it's completely off in terms of tone of voice. So I think tone of voice, and balancing that outreach with that warmth and that sense of you're inviting someone personally on their most personal channel.
Mm. And do you think that this enough to humanize automated communication?
Yes, I think the input going in. The channel is just a means of connecting,
Mm.
but what you put into that has to be so carefully looked at, so so nuanced, so apt. It has to evoke that sense that there is, there is a voice behind it. It's not impersonal. It's not technology speaking to you. Ultimately, there is a human connection behind that technology that's enabling it.
You were talking about timing just at the beginning of the interview, and then there is location, behavior, and contextual data regarding the person you are referring to. What role does they play in crafting meaningful communication versus just efficient targeting, automated one?
I think it's everything. Context is everything. If you understand the context, you can then understand and then you can craft. If you don't understand the context, uh, you can be tone deaf, frankly, in your communication, and it will land that way for the people. And the instant um, impression it creates is they don't get me, and that's not something you want.
Do you think we are over optimizing for conversations? I'm talking about CPA. And is that a problem for, you know, the, for the brand at the end of the day, in
I
the long
think
term?
yes, I would put it as optimizing is a big positive of the technology, but taking the time to do the discovery of the audience, of the context, that discovery is a very important stage before the channel is deployed with the content, and it's critical to getting the content right.
Mm. You wrote a book, Have Biscuit, where you celebrate small everyday moments. How can brands translate that philosophy into mobile communication, if they can?
Um, my book is about being an ode to sweet everyday moments. And I think the mobile is an everyday 24/7 device. So there's a fit right there. And if we can understand the everyday moments of connection, which are so special, uh, we can have meaningful engagement with this uh, device, which is almost part of us now. Many people say that they go to sleep with their mobile phone. It's always in their hand. They're even crossing the road with the mobile phone in with them. So it's such an everyday thing. Wouldn't it be wonderful to find everyday moments that genuinely connect, which I call these biscuit moments,
Sí.
which are like biscuits. They are small and sweet, sometimes soft, sometimes crisp.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, am I correct in saying that all our discussion here is about less and more meaningful? That's probably
Absolutely, absolutely.
that's
It's
probably what
it's
we are talking about, isn't it?
yes, yes, and there is a lot of convergence across fields on the importance of the small moment. For example, in psychology, uh, a scholar put it to me very well, saying small hinges move big doors. And they explain that, every day in relationships, people make a bid, an emotional bid. An emotional bid is like an invitation to connect. Someone may want a hug or want to tell you about your day or just wave to you through a glass cabin while you're in a meeting. And it's these small interactions or bids. When they are positively acknowledged and responded to, relationships tend to thrive. Often, when relationships are under stress, it's because the emotional bid, uh, has not even been noticed or acknowledged, or worse, negatively responded to. So it's the small hinges that move big doors. In the theory of behavior change, B.J. Fogg, who's the Stanford scientist, in his TED talk said Don't only focus on the grand gesture. The small step and the small habit is vital, because it is sustainable. You know, like I mean, a lot of people say, if I were to give you an example, that I'm going to have less sugar and I'm going to have no desserts this year. I mean, it's likely they're going to cave in. They will have some dessert. But if they say, I'm going to reduce my 1 teaspoon to 3/4 of a teaspoon in my daily cup of coffee or tea, uh, that's probably a little more sustainable. And like that, in many fields, uh, there is a realization that uh, go for the small spaces and the small moments of connection to have a thriving relationship.
Some questions on the futures, looking ahead. What does great mobile first brand strategy? That's what my notes said. Maybe too much. But anyway, what something like that would look like in 3, 4 years from now?
I think the micro joys, if we can focus on that on one hand, and the other, I mean, people are becoming more and more aware of the addictive nature. And if something can be done to, reduce those aspects, those intrusive, somewhat manipulative aspects, and make it a fresher space with all the power at its command, you know, and build in these micro moments of connection, or the biscuit moments, which are genuinely meaningful.
Right. And if you had one, just one piece of advice for companies in the mobile ecosystem, operators, platforms, CPaaS players, what what would it be to better serve brands? We're talking about brands, of course. What advice would you give if you had to choose one?
Uh, I think embark on the discovery of the biscuit moments between your category, the mobile phone, and the consumer audience. And often it is something so small, it is unnoticed. It's probably a little imperfect. It's an everyday moment that doesn't cost much. I did some work with uh, runners, for example, and a lot of running um, conversation is about actually running, the moment. And
Sure.
there's so many magical moments that we all have experienced through brands. But a biscuit moment for runners is not only to do with running, it's preparing the night before. When they lay out their shorts and t-shirt and put the alarm, there is
Mhm.
a sense that in a life, in a world where so much is unpredictable, I'm doing one thing worthwhile. I'm organized, I have a plan, and I'm executing to it. And it's prepping the night before, which is equally a meaningful moment for a runner. And like that, this is just one example. Um, there are so many precious biscuit moments that can be leveraged, and mobile is a beautiful tool to do that.
Mhm.
Runners also feel very connected to the local community. When they go out, it's not just about their own fitness. And this is another moment. They know at 6:30 or 7 in the morning where the milkman arrives, which children are catching the school bus, which senior citizens have come out for their workout. They actually wave to people across. It's non-verbal, but in big cities where often people are disconnected, running is a great way to feel so connected to the local community. And again, that can be leveraged, uh, you know, um, through technology. Just two examples among many of how finding those um, biscuit moments can build that connection. And mobile is all about connection.
Right. So brands shouldn't forget about this biscuit moments. Give them to their narrative. I mean, it's not about the amount of things you put into a channel, but about being meaningful moments and meaningful messages. Thank you, Shazia,
Yes.
for your insights. That was Shaziya Khan on why the future of mobile messaging isn't just smarter. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Ricardo. Thank you so much.
So we could say that, at the end of the day, um, the future of mobile messaging shouldn't be just smarter, but more human, more intentional, and built on moments that matter, that truly matter. Thank you for listening to Map Perspective. Stay with us for more conversation at the intersection of mobile messaging and innovation. Thank you for listening and good luck with your work.
Thanks for listening to Perspectives in Mobile. Join us next as we explore telecoms, technology, and mobile innovations. Stay tuned, stay connected, and let's unlock the mobile potential together.